Well, hello there. And this is Auntie. And we are here with a different kind of video today. All right. If you can see by the title, Jihoon has lawyered up. And we're going to be talking with his new attorney, Joseph Alamilla. Okay, all righty. And so you all put your seatbelts on, get ready for this lawyer extraordinaire. And yeah, let's get into it. What are the rights of a daddy?
Everybody needs a sweet old auntie. Everybody needs
with a whoop whoop and a boop boop
auntie
boop.
that everybody needs.
You can make this up. Now you know that these are some crazy motherfuckers.
Everybody needs a sweet old auntie.
So why even bother?
Aunties and lives, sweet old auntie. Aunties and ways. Are you okay? Are you okay?
So, hi, everybody. We're back. If this is your first time being here, please like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. And to all of my new subscribers, thank you all so much for joining the family. To all of my nieces and nephews who have been with me for the long haul, thank you all so much for your continued support. As we all know, Jihoon of 90 Day Fiancé and Deavan have been going through some little problems, okay, if you will. And it has played out on social media. Earlier this week, I had a video conversation and interview with Amanda, who is the manager of Jihoon's GoFundMe. There were some questions that many of the viewers had as it related to this particular I don't even know what you want to call it, this particular video that we did. A lot of people were questioning the GoFundMe. They were questioning why the funds were at the amount of $50,000. Why would someone need $50,000 in order to fight a case? So today we have invited both Amanda and Jihoon's lawyer back so that we can answer some of those questions that you all had for them. So I'm going to pull up, before I bring Joseph onto this platform, I want to bring up just a little bit of his background, okay? Now, I heard that he's a cutie, but I heard he's a shark, that he will bite your ass, okay? So I'm going to bring up on the screen, just 1 second, you all, a little bit of his bio for you all to read for yourselves, because you know how y'all are. If y'all don't see it in writing, y'all don't believe a damn thing. Thank you so much, Candace, for the $10 super chat. Thank you. So let's look at Joseph's background, if we will. Okay, everybody, let's pull that up on the screen. So look at Joseph. Isn't he cute? He is so cute. So this is the law office of Joseph C. Alamilla, PC. Okay. He is, it looks like a family law attorney, criminal law, business law. Okay, he does it all. Let's read one of these client testimony. He took over my case after almost 2 years with another lawyer. He got me to trial within 90 days and got me the results I wanted. He was efficient and knowledgeable. All righty. So let's read his background. The law office of Joseph has been represented many clients in the area of child support, child custody, DCFS, and divorce action. So it seems like he has been, he's the man. Okay. We recognize that you are entitled to your day in court and will not pressure you to take less than what you are entitled to. Family law is particularly rewarding to us, not only because we defend our family's rights, but also because we help resolve potential disputes before they even go to court through mediation. The law office of Joseph C. Alamilla is an effective advocate for our clients and will fight for all which you are entitled to. Joseph, you better work it. So without further ado, everybody, I'm going to be bringing to the screen Amanda Grace. Hello, Amanda. And the man of the hour, Joseph C. Amelia. Hi, everybody.
Hey, hello.
How are you all today?
It's getting better every day, so it's good. Doing real well.
Indeed. So, Joseph, I've already read a little bit of your bio. You want to tell us just a little bit more about yourself?
Sure. I've been a lawyer since 2003. So I went in. So I'm 44 now. So I've been doing this since I was 26, and I'm 44 now, and 17 years in. So that's where we're at. I started out my career defending hospitals and insurance companies. So I'd actually be in charge of defending different chains of hospitals from pretty intense litigation that way. I'm a trial lawyer, so I've gone to trial probably more times than most attorneys have, both in the criminal field and in the family law field. In the family law field, we try to avoid that a little bit more, just because if you're fighting over debt and over payments and over things of that nature, it may not make sense to go forward if you're not dealing with a multi-million-dollar house and things of that nature. But sometimes it's like the old Bon Jovi song, you live for the fight when that's all that you got. And a lot of people have had their kids taken away, or have had their children been disassociated with their children. And so a lot of times they just want something normal and regular, and they want to try to remove the shenanigans and just get what they're entitled to, and really have that peace of mind. And so for me, that's the trajectory my career took. Was I started out doing kind of corporate law, dealing with hospitals and experts and things of that nature. And then as I moved into family law and business contracts and business disputes that way, that's how I ended up representing families, and I represent a lot of males, both in the criminal field, where they've been, maybe they've had allegations against them, and it's basically the prosecutors won't let those go, and so you have to take it to court. And then the other way is, dealing with like massage therapists and things where there's maybe some allegations of impropriety there. And you have to take it to trial, because they're just, nobody's willing to believe you. They're like, I didn't do it, and you take them to trial, and so far, knock on wood, I've won every single one. So when I go to court, I just look at the best possible, like the golden thread that's going to carry the day that way, and then just really focus on that. And so that's a little bit of my background. I feel like I've been doing this forever, but I'm still young, so I'm going to keep doing it until they tell me I can't do it anymore, right?
That's right. So let me ask you a question. What made you take on this case?
This case was interesting because when you're dealing.
Just 1 second. Let me see if I can switch this. There we go. I love it. That's much better. So, okay. So go ahead.
Well, the reason I took this case is it intrigued me because in terms of international case, he's over there in South Korea. She's come over here. So there was that, and then also, I'm a dad. I have 4 daughters, so I recognize, the bond between children and their dad that way. And so I just feel like, if there's a way to get him back with his kids, then I should be the conduit to do that. And yeah, it's going to be tough. And when I was called, when I was made aware of this case, that's really what I saw, is just like, look, this guy deserves a fighting chance. It's not going to be easy. And I mean, we can go into why it wouldn't be easy, but at the same time, that's what intrigued me, because I've dealt with that a lot over my career. And it just seems like the guys never tend to get a fair shake, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like it just feels that way, and it may not be that way empirically. I mean, I'm not looking at a spreadsheet saying, well, yeah, 62% of the time, but I just feel like they people work hard, and they do their time, and then they kind of get taken advantage of because they may not know the legal system, or they may not know like what their rights are.
True.
True.
Very, very, very true. So did Amanda reach out to you? Amanda, did you reach out to Joseph, or did Joseph reach out to you? How did this connection come together?
One of my team members actually reached out to him because I was trying to do a ton of other things with GoFundMe and trying to get a couple other things set up. So one of the other team members reached out to him, did not at all expect to hear from him so quickly. And I really do appreciate that, Joe, so much. Thank you.
It was on I think it was on a Sunday, right? I mean, it was
Wow.
Yeah.
I guess that's when everything came together, was Sunday.
Yeah, it was like at 9:00 at night. So
Right.
he really did just as quickly get back to us. So we were up pretty late trying to get everything together, and that's how it happened.
Okay, fantastic. So, Joe, what had happened in the? Can I call you Joe? I feel like I
Yeah,
know.
you can call me Joe. You can call me Joe.
So, what has happened in the case so far? I'm not really familiar with all of this stuff that's been going on with it, because I don't follow any of them on social media. As a YouTube influencer, I just don't. Some of them I just can't. So what has happened right now in the case? So we have the GoFundMe going on.
Right.
What else is going on?
Well, it's at the very beginning, so, I always tend to, as growing up, boxing used to be prevalent in my house. And so I always see things in a 12-round fight, for whatever
Okay.
reason. Yeah. And that was back in my childhood. But either way, I mean, this is the preliminary, this would be like the person walking around with the sign card saying, this is the first round, right? So that's exactly right. Exactly right. And you still get that in MMA, but boxing just had such an allure back in the day, but either way, so that's where we're at. We're at the very beginning, but realistically, he was bumping up. The reason why, it was such an emergency for me, and why Amanda, and I hooked up almost right away, I recognize that when you're on a deadline, you can't mess around with the deadline, right? You have X amount of days to respond. And in this case, it was 30 days to respond, and that's up this week. And so when you're on a deadline, I've had 17 years of deadlines, and you can't miss the deadlines, right? So I understood what the importance was, and it's just, if you miss that deadline, then they can move for default. So if you're looking at like grand scheme where we're at, a petition was filed, right? And that's a matter of public record. A petition was filed. And so because he's out of the state, out of the country, he has 30 days to respond under Utah law. So under Utah law, he has 30 days to respond. So we were bumping up on that. And so now that we are responding, and we have responded, at that point, we're filing a counterclaim, basically saying that, hey, I understand she's seeking, whatever she's seeking. But he has rights that he wants to put forward, and he's saying, hey, I think that I should have, primary custody of the children and things of that nature. So it's basically, she's put her case forward. If he didn't respond, she would get those 100%. He would lose access to his kids. He'd lose final say. He'd get the bare minimum. I mean, because he's across the country, or because he's across the sea, that wouldn't be much time. I mean, basically, you're talking weeks out of the year. So out of 52 weeks, he may be guaranteed, 8. So, because he's so far away, and because it's international, and then COVID throws another monkey wrench into this, because we don't quite know how a judge would take that, right? So that's where we're at. She put her initial paperwork together. We filed a response, and now we dance. So now it's, we just kind of go forward, and to quote a
level playing field. Now
right.
It's more of a more equal kind of thing that's going on, rather than just a, here's what I want, deal with it kind of situation, because that's really what me and my team were trying to prevent. Yes, I'm the manager for the GoFundMe campaign, but there was, a lot of other things that were kind of playing into this as well. So now Joe can take that over. He's leveling the playing field, and pretty much really what matters now at this point. So
Okay, so let me ask you a question, Joe. So you said that she found something and you all found something. His deadline comes up this week. You indicated that you filed a countersuit, but did you file a continuance for him?
Well, once that's in, that deadline has been met.
Okay.
So once that paperwork is in, that deadline has been met, and then by statute, you just kick to the next phase of the litigation, which would be discovery. So at that point, financial declarations, just financial information should trade hands. We may submit some discovery requests in terms of, where have you lived? Where have you lived? Who have you lived with? Some real basic stuff that way. Nothing crazy. And then but the court requires you to file your financial declarations, your prior tax history, up to a couple of different years. So that's not anything that I would, that I'm requesting out of spite or to generate, more hours in the case. It's just the court by rule demands that it happen, and they won't even give you a final order until and unless you do all that. So you just have to comply with the court's orders that way.
Okay.
So is she aware of this filing?
Probably not, because it just happened today, right? So probably not, because it just happened today, but she would be, her lawyers would be notified right away. And so her lawyers, because of the way the system works, once I file, her lawyers are notified right away. So if it depends on how fast she, because you have to have a special service to even look up these types of cases, and it has to be approved by the court, right? So it's not quite open source. Although if you wanted to go down to the courthouse in American Fork, you could, and try to print those off, but you'd be dealing with the court clerk, and you could say, well, I have press credentials, or, I'm media, I have First Amendment right to kind of report on persons of interest or whatever, however you wanted to do that. But yeah, that's where we're at.
Wow. So someone said that she put something in the comment section in Insta and deleted it. So let's see if we can go back and find out.
Did we gave you a disclaimer about the crapshoot that you would be getting into with this?
Right.
Yeah, so someone said, laughing my ass off. I remember her saying the courts have already decided.
Yeah.
Sorry, but she is full of lies. Is that true? Has the court already decided? I mean, there's no way they did if you were able to go in there and file a motion.
No, the court, there's been no order that has come down. So there has, so I can just tell you that I can only tell you what I know is that I'm not aware of her, any of her social media. And so I don't know what she said or she hasn't said. All I know is that
I know everything that she has done.
I bet you do.
The court has already decided. Her mother has said that as well in her
Allegedly.
interview with John Yee.
Yeah, allegedly said, right?
Allegedly, the mother said that.
Yeah, well, yes. Okay, sure. We can say allegedly.
Absolutely.
They've both given interviews to another YouTuber saying the very same thing. So,
right.
So let me ask you something about this. Since a lot of this, Joseph, is paying out on a public platform, will any of that be used? Will you be, trying to collect that data in order to assist him in this case?
Yes, I will, because essentially what it boils down to is when you come forward, if there are allegations made in the public sphere, right, made on her account and collected from her public account that way, those are in the public realm. And so that really goes to, so it wouldn't necessarily come up right away, but let's say for example, and not using her specifically, but if somebody, I had a case once where somebody had written a letter to, and this was, this is obviously earlier on in my legal career before Instagram was even around, but somebody had written a letter to their class, and he had said, well, it was a male, and I was defending the female at that time, and he had said, well, he felt like he was a battered spouse, that she had continued to beat him up, and so I was able to utilize that statement in trial, and I think it was one of my first trials actually. And so there were some misstatements that he had said in there. So if you're putting stuff out on social media, it just better be true, because you can always use that to impeach somebody. So if they said, yes, I did X, Y, and Z, and well, guess what? They didn't do that, and they did A, B, and C instead. You can use that to show like motive, bias. You can, whether the person has a propensity to tell the truth, things of that nature. So whatever they're putting out, either one of them, whatever they're putting out, just has to be the truth. If it's not the truth, then you can raise that with the judge and say, well, this is what she said before. This is how they're not similar. And so therefore you should discount what she's saying now, right?
Right. So let me ask you another question. I see it coming up in the comments section, and I want to ask you this question. Amanda put this together, but it is appropriate for right now. So in general, for divorce and child custody, with one parent living overseas, what type of costs would normally be associated with this case? And part two, is the $50,000 request, GoFundMe request, significant enough to cover those costs associated with this case?
So I'll do the second part first, and then I'll get into the first part. So yes, it's enough to cover those costs. It's just we don't know. I guess we don't know what we don't know, because we don't know how hard the other party's going to fight. It'd be like you're trying to reconstruct a car, and then you go to sleep, and the other party has come in and deconstructed the car overnight. And so we don't know the specifics, but what we can say is that the more court hearings it requires, let's say if there's a child custody evaluation to determine, is this in the best interest of the child or whatever, then that's going to cost money. If we have hearings that way, ordinarily mediations are set for 4 hours, so you're paying the lawyer's time and you're paying the mediator's time, right? If you have a deposition, which, there may have to be a deposition in this case, or sworn statement taken under oath on video. Now with COVID, we do all this stuff by video. And so, that's going to be expensive, so yes, the 50,000 should be enough to cover that, arguably. But at the same time, it may be less, because, it just depends on what she does. And we just don't know what she does. If she's putting the pedal to the metal and saying, no, I want 0 parent time, if I want, or supervised visitation. I mean, there's certain things that she can do, or request anyway from the court. Not saying that she'd get it, but she could always request it. That would require a little more extra effort on our end. And so that's where it comes in. And as to the first question, does this make sense for somebody who's overseas? Absolutely, because, part of this is who's going to pay transportation costs, right? So if she was found to have abandoned her family there, and moved to the U.S., then you could make the case that she should be responsible for transportation costs of their children to go back and forth to South Korea, because that's where he was originally at. So
you gotta work it, Joe.
I'm just saying it could happen. So we'd have to have the judge agree with us, obviously, and we'd have to say, look, these are these situations where this would be worth it to fight, especially if they're overseas, right? So that way, because under that you'd be under a different section of the statute, and so your weeks would have to come in bunches. So they wouldn't necessarily. Like if you were to go right now, it'd be every other weekend, or maybe split custody, or 70-30 or 60-40. When you're out of the country or out of the state, a lot of times your weeks would come like 3 weeks in the summer or 4 weeks in the summer, and that's it. And then you may get 2 weeks somewhere else, and then 2 weeks somewhere else. And so it really isn't a lot of time. So what we're trying to do is widen that window so he gets the most time that he can that's reasonable. Given the fact that, if she left that country and she came over here to the U.S. and to Utah, he'd argue that there should be some assistance for her to get his children or his child over there. So
Yeah.
I have another question that I'm sorry, you wanted to ask the question, Amanda? You
No,
were about to say something?
but I did have a question. Like, since the child has been here, would there be any way to do any kind of makeup time? Does that make sense?
right, and you could do that. So whenever there's a case where there's been a long period of time, you can always ask the court to make up your time, saying that you didn't get what you were entitled to under the statute.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't get enough time that way. The other time that you'd have makeup time would be in instances of parental interference, and I'm just talking generally. So if somebody is actively hindering, and there's actually one Utah case law, well, several now, but where they reverse custody because of all the shenanigans between the parties, right? And so there, parental interference, because it's a constitutional right. I mean, parental rights are constitutional rights.
Mm-hmm.
So even though most people don't think that way, the Utah State Supreme Court and the United States Supreme Court have both said that there's nothing more fundamental than a parent's rights, and especially here, where you have a father's rights, and his children are over here, and he's kind of in a tough way. Him being over there, his kids being over here, and so these are fundamental rights that I think need to be adjudicated, and that's kind of where we're at. So that's the long answer. The short answer is yes, the 50,000 should cover it, and yes, it is worth it to try to get his rights secured, because if you don't, let me tell you what happens if you don't have any communication. So if he doesn't have any communication, and I've had cases dealing with this, if he doesn't have any communication for like 90 days, 120 days, and he's just cut off, then the other party could move to terminate his parental rights. And so then, yes, he wouldn't have to pay child support, but basically he'd have no legal right or legal recourse with respect to his kids, so you really do have to move quickly to defend yourself.
But what she has done, would that fall under like parental alienation at all?
See, and I would just say it's to be determined, because we just don't know yet all the facts, right? And then we'd have to put those in front of the judge and say, well, so I would just say that to be determined in any case, it may not in the first, let's say, half of the relationship or the first half of the divorce, maybe there wouldn't be parental alienation.
Mm-hmm.
But let's say as the kids get older and that starts to occur and you start bringing it up. So it's kind of a moving target. It's really fact intensive, and it requires the judge to kind of come down and say, this is the problem.
Okay.
So let me ask you a question. I'm in West Africa. My baby is a dual citizen. I make a public proclamation or promise that I am coming back. You have a video of me saying, I'm going to go home for 2 months and I promise you I'll be back. Is that a contract?
I mean, arguably, yeah. I mean, I guess the question would be, is there consideration, right? So it would be, because under Utah law, promises are, with nothing else in there, are just promises, right? You can't hold somebody, but there is the case for abandonment, right? So you could argue, well, have they abandoned the family? And you could try to go under some older Utah case law with respect to that and saying, well, because she abandoned the family, she should go under these lines of cases or something like that. Now, if she says, I promise to come back, I guess the question would be would the ticket, who purchased the ticket? If money was exchanged in terms of that contract, then yeah, you could argue breach of contract within the context of the family law case, and go that route. And those are very rare, but those have happened in Utah, where you people have property cases, breach of contract cases like that, all occurring under the heading of a family law case, but the judge just has to deal with a couple, few more issues.
I have another question. That just sparked another question. If they got married in South Korea, then how can you get divorced in Utah?
So under most state statutes in the United States, it only requires that you live in that state for 90 days, right? And
Oh,
and that's the same way if you were to go from Utah to California. And it's under, I promised I wouldn't, the technical word is the UCCJEA, and it's the Uniform Child Custody Enforcement Act. I just wanted to get that in there. But no, so basically it deals with, how you have custody, how you have, what allows them to bring a court case in that jurisdiction. And it really is that residential requirement saying that if you've moved from California to Utah, if you try to file in Utah within 90 days, Utah doesn't have jurisdiction. You'd have to go file back in California. And it's to protect against something similar to that, where, you have a fleeing spouse who flees state lines and moves to another state to try to interfere with you or something like that. And that was designed to protect against that situation. But that's the same thing internationally. If you move internationally away out of the jurisdiction of South Korea or any other, Mexico, Canada, it doesn't matter where, and you move here, then yeah, as soon as that 90 days passes, then you'd have the authority and the ability to file a case in Utah seeking Utah justice, basically.
Mm-hmm.
okay. Amanda, you have any questions for Joe? I'm wearing Joe out, child, because I got like 55.
Well, I can promise to come back.
Okay.
But,
No, I think this was really good. Thank you so much, Auntie, for taking us on.
No worries.
That was really great of you. So I think I'm good.
Joe, any final parting words for the subscribers here?
only that, as I get to know you guys, I know that he recognizes his fan base and he loves them, and I know that his fan base feels the same way about him. And so I'm just honored and happy to be able to come in and add my 2 cents to this situation.
So are you going to get hooked on 90 Day Fiancé?
No, nothing. Dating in the modern world, is interesting to say the least. But that I don't think I'll be signing on to that.
I don't blame you. Well, Joe, thank you so much for being here. Thank you, Amanda. I appreciate you all for being here. Joe said, everybody, that he will come back. So if you
Yep.
get your questions together, we'll have Joseph C. Amelia. Did I say it right?
Close. It's Alamilla.
Alamilla.
Alamilla. It's like Mamma Mia, but Alamilla.
Let me tell you, Joseph, I will fuck her name up, okay?
All right.
Thank you all so much for being here.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye.
So everybody, you heard it from the horse's mouth. Seems like the plot is getting thicker and thicker by the day. Your auntie is here to keep you all notified. Go home. Oh, okay. I'm here to keep you all up to date on this. We will continue to watch this story, and like I said, we'll keep you up to date with what's going on. So it seems like all of this stuff has happened today, and I'm sure that maybe via this this video, or Devin to find out that bitch, you just got served. So anyway, I love you all to pieces. Thank you so much for the super chat. Mary, thank you so much for holding down the fort and keeping the chat safe for everybody. Love you all.